Here's what we're talking about today in our lineup here on The Now. We know that adults get gastric bypass surgery, but should it also be an option for teens? Well, this teen's doctor recommended it to him at just 16 years old. We're going to take a look at some new research surrounding this procedure. And some states have been restoring voting rights for people when they get out of prison. We're going to be talking about the new push to let prisoners do it behind bars. And we're also looking at efforts to get away from using your credit score to determine just how much you'll pay for car insurance.
I'm Amanda Starantino for The Now Indy. Forgetting your keys can happen once in a while, but sometimes it can get more serious. There's a new survey through the Alzheimer's Association about memory loss. Now, working for you, our Aaron Lish has the challenges you and your family may face.
Well, it was pretty sudden with me.
For accountant Lyle Bass, he knew something wasn't right while playing the game Rummy Cube.
And I've always been able to do all the numbers in my head like a person who plays chess. And all of a sudden, one night, they disappeared.
He went to the doctor and was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. A new study shows nearly 75% of people say it would be hard to talk about memory loss or thinking problems with loved ones.
Because it's something you don't necessarily want to brag about.
The Alzheimer's Association points out that the survey also showed 9 of 10 Americans would want someone to let them know if they had concerns.
You know, in that initial conversation, you kind of want to avoid the word Alzheimer's or dementia and just talk about the overall big picture changes.
It's suggested to use questions like, I've noticed this change in you and I'm concerned. Have you noticed it? How have you been feeling lately? You haven't seemed like yourself. Then patients can start making changes.
It's not too late to change your diet. It's not too late to exercise. It's not too late to increase your social engagement. Those are the things that you can actively do to make things better.
Which is what Bass is doing. Getting an Apple Watch to track his location, buying a Tesla with its technology, and creating a support system.
And what I've done is build an outside team, family, friends. So I have a whole group of people already set up for my wife when she has to become a full-time caregiver.
Planning not only for his future with Alzheimer's, but also for his family. Aaron Lish, RTV6.
And the Alzheimer's Association has tips and guidance for both patients and caregivers. You can find it through this story on the RTV6 app and the IndyChannel.com. Summer vacation is almost here for nearly all of Indianapolis students, but IPS wants to make sure kids still have access to lunch every day. The district's free summer meal program starts today. Free breakfast and lunch will be served to any child under 18, not just IPS students. Adults can also buy a meal for less than $4. For a complete list of locations and times, go to the RTV6 app and click on this story. It could be another step toward a ban on e-cigarettes in Carmel. Tonight, a city council committee will consider a proposal to regulate e-cigarettes. It would broaden the definition of smoking to include e-cigs. It would also ban them from all public places in Carmel, including libraries, schools, laundromats, malls, and sports arenas. It is being sponsored by 5 of the 7 members of Carmel City Council, so it is likely to pass. The committee meets at 6 o'clock tonight at Carmel City Hall. And we are still waiting to find out more about a car discovered in a Northside canal. Indianapolis firefighters were called just after 6 o'clock this morning to the car found in the water at East Westfield Boulevard and Kessler Boulevard East Drive. A dive team went in the water, but no one was found inside. The car was eventually pulled from the water. Police are still investigating. Kevin, looks beautiful out.
Oh, sunshine taking over. It's been 2 halves to this day. I like the upper right camera. That's our view looking to the west. You can see a little shimmer off of White River there. Any clouds you see looking out your window now will be gone after sunset tonight, which isn't until after 9 o'clock. What will happen, the wind will calm down. These temperatures start to fall, eventually about 20 degrees cooler than they are right now by tomorrow morning. Just to show you the clouds clearing, the whiter, brighter clouds represent the rain that came through here earlier in the day off to Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio. Here's the low cloud cover that's finally about to clear even the eastern portion of the state. With the drier air rolling in, sky clears, humidity drops. Temperature right now 72 in Indy, 77 in Terre Haute. Through the evening hours, this is what we expect. The wind will relax just a bit and our sky will clear. Will be 10 degrees cooler by 11 o'clock tonight.
Today, President Trump tweeting a deal between the U.S. and Mexico on border protection is signed. Mexico committed to sending thousands of additional troops to its borders and allowing immigrants from Central America seeking asylum in the U.S. to stay in Mexico. The deal prevented a 5% tariff on Mexican products. Now, that is something the car industry is watching closely. It also believes consumers are looking at it because of the amount of imported vehicles and car parts.
I think that it's one of those things where even though it's on the sticker, that Monroney label does tell you the final assembly location. This is going to matter more now than ever for consumers that really place a lot of pride on U.S. built product.
Mexico's government still needs to approve the deal. There is another threat for rising tariffs. President Trump telling CNBC if China's president doesn't meet with him at the G20 summit later this month, higher tariffs would be put in immediately. Now, the possible hike would impact about $300 billion worth of Chinese goods. Former baseball star David Ortiz is out of surgery and stable. He was shot at a club in the Dominican Republic. Investigators are still trying to figure out if Ortiz was the intended target. Now, he's also, of course, known as Big Papi. He played in the major leagues for 20 seasons, led the Boston Red Sox to 3 World Series titles before retiring in 2016. Let's start the news feed. An opioid maker filing for bankruptcy. Insys Therapeutics agreed to pay $225 million in a settlement. Now, it's overpaying doctors to prescribe its opioids. A federal jury also found the company's founder and several executives guilty in a racketeering conspiracy. The Supreme Court will not be taking up a case about gun silencers. Kansas and several other states want the Supreme Court to rule whether silencers are protected under the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court did not comment on why it won't take this case up. A gunman who killed 12 people in Virginia recently used a silencer. 41 more cases of measles across the country. That is according to the CDC. But we now have more than 1,000 cases in 28 states. Virginia and Idaho seeing their first cases last week. Right now, the U.S. is seeing the most measles cases since 1992. All right, let's get back to our lineup here. In gastric bypass surgery, it can be life-changing.
In my mind, it was like a magic pill to change my life and not have to worry about anything weight-related anymore. But I've come to thoughts that it's, a lot harder than it is.
Now, that teen you just heard from had a doctor recommend it to him at 16. So we're going to get some perspective on new research looking at just how young this procedure should be allowed for.
And Keller, right now.
Right now on the Now, Indy police are warning drivers to be on the lookout for a man possibly impersonating an officer. Now, the Rush County Sheriff's Office says a woman told them she was pulled over and ordered out of her car by a man driving a dark vehicle with red lights. They say the woman told them the man was not in uniform and showed her some kind of badge, and the woman said appeared faked. Now, she did not get out of her car and instead drove away and called police. Authorities remind everyone that in order for any officer to conduct a traffic stop, that officer must be in a proper and complete uniform or be in a marked police vehicle. If you have any information on the possible impersonator, you are asked to call the Rush County Sheriff's Office.
The percentage of obese children has more than tripled in the U.S. since the 70s. Nearly 1 in 5 school-aged children deals with obesity, but Kamasi Aaron's taking a look at gastric bypass surgery as an option.
So basically, we just put the phone up here like I usually do.
Dustin Vogelbacher is getting ready to record.
As soon as I press countdown,
sharing his dance moves.
Usually set up, and then I can go like this.
With his tens of thousands of followers on TikTok. It's also how he shares his journey of undergoing gastric bypass surgery.
I had type 2 diabetes. That one really hit me too. I was like, no, I'm turning into my grandpa.
At 350 pounds, Dustin also had high blood pressure, a fatty liver, and sleep apnea. And his doctor told him a heart attack could be next.
When you hear the you're at risk for heart attack from a doctor, yeah, that kind of scares you. So I was like, yeah, no, I'm going to do this now. I got to change.
At just 16 years old, Dustin's doctor recommended he have gastric bypass surgery.
I was against it.
Dustin's mom, Stacy, thought he was too young.
Yeah, it worried me a little bit because it's such a lifetime change that at 16, 17, life is so different than it's going to be, in your 20s and your 30s.
But a new study shows gastric bypass surgery works just as well in adolescents as it does in adults, if not better.
The teenagers actually were able to reverse their health conditions that are associated with obesity, like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure, much more efficiently.
Dr. Thomas Inge is chief of pediatric surgery at Children's Hospital Colorado, and he led the study. He says the results show early intervention can lead to better long-term results, but it's not for everyone. Dr. Inge believes about 8% of American teenagers would qualify.
So it's not just 30 pounds overweight, it's more like 75 to 100 pounds overweight with an identifiable complication of the obesity.
Dr. Inge says some doctors have been hesitant to try the procedure, concerned about the risk of surgery and making sure teens get enough nutrients with their new restricted diet. But he hopes this research will lead to more access for teens who want to explore the option.
This video that I did, it got 8.5 million views.
Dustin's glad he did.
And it was the best decision of my life, I think.
I'm Kumasi Aaron reporting.
Kamasi, thank you. And ahead of our lineup, we're going to talk about some of the new efforts to get away from using your credit score to determine just how much you'll pay for car insurance.
Up for only $89.
On time. More states are moving towards making it illegal to use credit scores for car insurance rates. Annie Taylor taking a look at some of the possible impact here.
Chris, it was already illegal in California, Hawaii, and Massachusetts, and now it's also illegal in Michigan. Almost half of drivers aren't aware that credit scores are factored in. So car insurance companies can use it to try to predict how likely you are to file a claim.
Statistically, higher rates of claims have been correlated with lower credit scores. So insurance companies say there's some math here, there's some science here, and they're able to show that math to the insurance regulators and say, you know, it makes sense for us to charge people with lower credit scores more for car insurance.
That means that in states where it's still legal to use credit scores, people with lower credit scores could pay almost double for car insurance. But a study by the Mackinac Center for Public Policy shows that places where insurers don't check credit scores will have a less competitive market, which means all customers will pay more. But regardless of whether or not credit scores are used, you should still do your homework.
Take a look at all the information that does affect it. Make sure that they, compare rates, see what's available to them. Make sure that they're paying attention so they can save as much money and have the best coverage as possible.
Insurers will still be looking at where you live, your local economy and crime, and how congested your city is.
All right, Annie, thank you. And look, we know that being a college student, it can be tough. And we're learning that homelessness is now a growing problem for college students. A new survey by the Hope Center found more than half of students in community college have had a hard time paying rent. A little less than half going to four-year colleges have had similar experiences. Now, some schools and nonprofits are trying to help. There's Tacoma Community College, for example, in Washington State, giving out rent vouchers. Then in Los Angeles, there's a nonprofit called Jovenes where they pay rent for homeless students. Now, states are also working to help. A proposal in California would require community college to provide parking lots for students who sleep in cars. Massachusetts is testing a plan that lets community college students live in dorms nearby universities. Now, studies show that homelessness can also overlap with food insecurity. Colorado State, for example, brings fresh vegetables, fruit, and other food to its campus food bank, and hundreds of students take advantage of that program.
Two major defense contractors are teaming up in central Indiana. United Technologies and Raytheon have agreed to a merger. The new company will be called Raytheon Technologies Corporation and will be focused on the defense industry. So far, the company has not said whether the merger will impact the Raytheon plant that employs more than 1,200 people on the east side. United Tech also owns the Carrier plant in Indianapolis that shipped more than 500 jobs to Mexico. And there are a lot of things that can affect your definition of fun, including where you live. And new today, we're getting a look at how Indiana fits in with the nationwide efforts on having fun. And while you might disagree, Indiana is not high on the list for fun states. It's at number 39. Wallet Hub ran the numbers by looking at 26 key indicators of a good time, including movie costs, accessibility of national parks, and other metrics of fun. California was number 1 on the list.
I'm disappointed, and I don't believe it.
No comment.
We'll have fun with it.
We always have fun here.
Yes, we do, especially when the sun is shining. You see Victory Field there. When the Indians are away, that's when they go to work. They were just sprinkling and cleaning and making sure everything is in perfect condition. They've been watering just a little bit. You don't need to water too much, do you? The trick there is they'll cover the field at times so it doesn't get all muddy, but then you got to uncover it so you don't burn it up. It's a kind of a tricky game played there. Clear and cool tonight. Temperatures on their way into the lower 50s. More sunshine returns tomorrow. All that rain that we had Sunday into this morning is now well off to the east. We push that away. High pressure will come in, and you can see its impact already, clearing the sky. The wind will begin to calm down. That's the next thing to happen in the next several hours. And these temperatures will cool by almost 20 degrees. Coolest in the east, where you've held onto the cloud cover the longest. 66 in Richmond. You come all the way western portion of the state, almost a dozen degrees warmer in Vigo County. For the morning drive, 52 degrees. Skies will be clear. 79 your afternoon high. The wind is light all day long. That'll be a major change from today. And the humidity will be noticeably lower, at least than where we started out this morning. Humidity is dropping right now. High temperatures, upper 70s, may touch 80 in a few spots. Already by noon, we've recovered to 73. Afternoon high in the upper 70s.
Let's start the news feed. Another cannabis company now public, but on the Canadian stock market. Harborside Health made its IPO today. Dozens of companies have been going to Canada as marijuana is still illegal federally in the United States. That means you're not going to see cannabis companies on the U.S. stock market. Egypt has the right to demand a sculpture of King Tut be returned. Now, this is according to a renowned Egyptian archaeologist. The issue is the sculpture is being auctioned off next month at Christie's in London. The archaeologist is leading an effort to have multiple Egyptian artifacts returned. He argues that this King Tut sculpture was stolen. Pretty cool thing you can see tonight if you look up into the sky. Jupiter will be closer to Earth than at any other time this year. Researchers say look to the east, so you should be able to see it with your naked eye. Then if you have binoculars, you might even be able to see its moons. Well, there is a unique museum that could be considered the key to thousands of memories. Thomas Hoppe showing us the collection with 30,000 stories.
We're kind of hidden in the trees on the side of Twin Sisters Mountain.
The world has so many doors.
Just off the highway, so we're not hard to find, but you kind of have to know we're here.
And in Estes Park, Colorado, you can walk through time.
My name is Lois Smith. I am the current innkeeper or owner at the Baldpate Inn.
Oh, the wonders that this place holds.
We've been here 102 years. People recognize the creaky floors if they stayed at their grandmother's house. The stairs are crooked. You don't want to drop a bag of marbles anywhere because everything is a little warped.
It survived a lot of weather, and you feel like you're stepping into history. So
all the stories.
Only two families have ever owned the inn. The Mace family was the first family. It was two brothers that built the lodge together.
All the people.
So this is about 100 years old at this point, this book here. And this is a physical catalog of everyone who's been to this inn.
Even the name has a story.
We were named after a mystery novel. That story is about 7 people that go to a lodge. They each think they have the only key.
The keys are the key of what makes this place a story.
But probably the most significant thing that people hear about is our really fun key collection. Approximately 30,000 keys that have all been individually donated by people.
Stories from all over the world.
30,000 stories. We had a gentleman, turns out he brought me a key that he had stolen when he was 7 years old. So he brought it back to us 50 years later in a frame. So we now have the original key to room 7. We have 30,000 only keys, but every one of them is special.
There's something about a key that unlocks more than just doors.
So it's kind of a mark of a memory. Or have that key be a tangible example of that memory of your life.
And the world has so many doors. In Estes Park, I'm Thomas Hoppo.
Thomas, thank you. Let's get back to our lineup. We're going to talk about the new debate over whether people serving time should get their rights back to vote while still in prison.